The Florida Gators have picked up 2 commitments.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. The Florida Gators have started to break through in recruiting after a very slow start. It is no longer slow. They picked up 2 commitments today, both from inside the state of Florida, one in the trenches and one out wide. And to help me break that down is Locked On Gators host, Brandon Olson. Brandon, good day for Florida fans. Congrats on the pickups. They certainly needed some recruiting momentum, and they've done it. So they're at 7 commitments, I think, right now. Is that right? So
6, yeah. 6.
Okay.
Gonna be 7 pretty soon. Don't worry about that.
Okay. Optimism from Brandon. That doesn't always happen, so take it when you can get it. First off, let's start off with Chancellor Campbell, offensive tackle out of Lakewood High School, St. Petersburg, Florida. I had a chance to see him at the Orlando Under Armour camp. He's just ginormous. 6'7", 6'8", somewhere in there. Still filling out his frame, but he's a kid that I think is going to weigh 325, and he kind of fits the profile of what you would expect for a Florida Gators offensive tackle playing in the SEC. Okay. Again, long way to go in terms of technique and all that stuff, but Ohio State wanted him, Penn State wanted him. Had offers from pretty much everybody in the state of Florida down south. Were you surprised, A, that he committed, and B, any idea like where he was in the pecking order for Billy Napier and his staff?
Not sure where he was in the pecking order. I don't think he was a priority player, but I will say that he fits their mold of will take you as a developmental piece. I don't think he's, their crown jewel of the class. But I do think that he is their high upside swing there. But as far as the surprise about the commitment, nope. He was someone that I had listed on Friday. I said I'd be on commitment watch for him. I feel like Florida's been in the lead. And even after the commitment, he said, he felt like it was going to be Florida, but this official visit kind of solidified that for him. And so I don't think he was surprised by it. I wasn't surprised by it. I don't think anybody in the program was surprised by it. Big addition, and to see him cancel the visits afterward, which hopefully they stay canceled. But to see him cancel visits after at least feels good from a fan perspective.
Well, I know that Andrew Ivins from 24/7 is super high on his upside, and we've talked about this many times. Offensive tackle is hard to project. So the best thing you can do is get, as you said, a developmental player that's got all the physical tools, who is getting better. The difference between him as a sophomore and a junior is pretty stark, and he's a kid that's not done growing yet. His shoes, I'm guessing he wears a size 16 or something like that. He's got humongous feet, big hands. He's going to weigh 320 and be an offensive tackle in the SEC. So that's player number 1. Player number 2 was that was an in-state guy, but it's not anywhere near the closeness of the second recruit because he didn't even have to change towns. From Buchholz High School, Justin Williams, wide receiver. I think he'll play slot, but maybe he'll play out wide too. We'll see. Buchholz has always had football players that end up playing for the Gators for a very long time. They're a very competitive program. I'm guessing that the Gators thought they were getting him for a long time. To be honest, I'm a little bit surprised this didn't end sooner. Florida State, Indiana, Kentucky, and a whole bunch of other programs were trying to get him to visit. And he had a bunch of offers. But maybe the safest pick out of all the guys they've offered in state is the guy that lives literally 5 minutes from the University of Florida.
Yeah, I think I don't know if this is what they're doing intentionally, but it does feel like they're even for kids that feel like heavy Florida leans, like Chancellor Campbell did, waiting for the OV, getting them on campus, getting them to pop then. And Billy's always been a momentum on the trail guy. I know that people will fault him. I'll fault him for having a kid say, hey, I want to commit today. And we'll hear, sometimes it's, let's wait till this moment. Let's wait till this thing happens. Let's wait till we can build momentum and build off those. But I think that might be part of it of let's have, a big Sunday with 2 commits. Let's wait for those. So I don't think it's much of a surprise for them. I do think that the timing is intentional. Honestly. And I don't know that for a fact, but I will say that I think the timing is intentional for when these kids commit.
I really like Justin's film because he has just ridiculous hands. I'm not going to try to compare him to a bunch of NFL guys, but anybody you can think of, that slot receiver who just makes the critical catch, Justin kind of fits that profile. Back shoulder fades. There was a couple of catches that like over the shoulder, one where he was falling down backwards because he kind of overran it, and then he just fell down catching the ball. Like, it's a very odd catch, and I'm like, holy cow, that is an NFL play. And then he has pretty good speed too, good off running through the screens and getting all the bouncing through the defenders, good balance. I think he can play pretty early. Yet Florida's not hurting for wide receiver talent right now, but I get the feeling that he's got a natural feel for the game. Like Chancellor Campbell, offensive tackle, takes a little longer to develop. If he got called on by his sophomore year to be a starter, I really don't think Justin Williams would be a problem for Florida. I think he would produce very well. The only issue he has is battling through a pretty good depth chart, to put it mildly. Have you heard anything in regards to Williams playing inside or out, or is it just get him on campus, we'll figure it out?
I think the priority is getting him on campus, but I expect him to be in the slot. I do expect him to be kind of a Trey Wilson role where we saw a whole bunch of sweeps and just getting him the ball in dynamic ways, especially earlier in his career with Florida. I would imagine that's a big plan there. But I think that, he's someone that Florida's going to look at him and just say, hey, let's get a dynamic playmaker. Billy's always any knock people want to have. Billy's always done a very good job of getting dynamic playmakers at receiver throughout really his entire career. And so this is just another extension of that. I do think Justin Williams is someone that they view as, let's use him in multiple ways. Let's have him as a return man. Let's use him in any way we can. 1,000 receiving yards last year, 1,400 receiving yards last year, 1,000 rushing yards. First guy to do that since Devin Hester in high school in the state of Florida. So, yeah, I think Florida's just like, hey, let's just get this kid on campus. Let's get him here. Let's just make some plays with him.
Well, I like his film, like I said, and I think he's a fit. And Florida should probably get the Buchholz kids more often than not. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about what's next for Florida. Is the perception changing? Because there for a while, it's a little dicey for Florida recruiting. They were down to one kid. That was not good, but now it has totally changed. That is next here on this crossover of Locked On Gators and Locked On the Portal. The NBA Finals are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in on the game before tip-off and live. Player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and to win big. Which players are going to show up big for the Indiana Pacers and the OKC Thunder in the next few games? You got Halliburton. Obviously, that's the focal point for the Pacers. But can somebody slow him down without taking off the gas off their defensive edge on the other guys? And for OKC, they played pretty well. Game 1, game 2, we'll see how it goes. But they need to score just a little bit better in the clutch. Maybe a same-game parlay, trying to figure out who's going to be that shooter. We'll find out here pretty soon, but there's going to be a lot of great games here in the NBA Finals. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. The Gators are warming up in recruiting, and they finally kind of, for lack of a better phrase, found their groove. They've had some really good players on campus. Anybody the last few weekends that you feel really good about, and I know a lot of kids are going to wait till late June, early July. I get it. Anybody off the top of your head you feel really good about? You're like, man, if they don't get this kid, I'm going to be surprised. Or maybe even somebody, Brandon, that they've moved up with that when they first scheduled their visit, you're like, yeah, this is probably going to be tough. Who you got?
I mean, one kid that I think they're going to take is from the other show that you host, Locked On Seminoles. I think Darian Williams is going to eventually wind up here.
That's possible. That's very possible. Good
yeah,
player.
Yeah, a hell of a player. And another player that Florida State had him on campus this weekend was Carson Baker. I think Florida knocked it out of the park with him. We'll see if it still holds true, but I think Florida crushed it there. Kekua Omua, tight end that was on campus this weekend. I don't know. Florida's first on his board. I don't know if he's first on Florida's board. I think Kent is their priority. Caden Prothro's up there as well. But I do think that Kekua Omua, who was on campus this weekend, there was also another tight end, Lincoln Watkins. I think that Florida, if they want them, could get them at any point. It's just a matter of, does Florida miss out on their other players? Jarayla McCoy, another one that Florida trending upward with. Hopefully that one actually follows through because that kid's just a killer. But Florida, they're pushing Javari Lucas, offensive lineman. I thought I had Javari Lucas as someone on commit watch when he visited campus last week. Didn't happen. Still going to see his recruitment play out, but I still feel good about how that one wound up for Florida.
He's Belgrade Central, isn't he? If I remember right, he's big offensive tackle. That program has sent a lot of great players to Florida over the years, including a certain Fred Taylor, among others.
Yep.
So,
and Kelvin Taylor was on campus for Javari Lucas's official visit. He was with him accompanying.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a small world right there. As far as where Florida sits in recruiting, do they have big visit weekends on the 13th and 20th, or is it like that 8 to 10 range? They got a bunch more kids, or what do they got?
I think the way that Florida's gone through their visits in general have been, they have, I want to say, trends going with it. The 13th is their final visit, their final OV weekend that they're running. They don't do the 20th. So they're just running the 13th, but they've got, I want to say, 18 kids set to come on to campus this coming weekend. So
massive.
Gonna be a full house. Gonna be a full house for the Florida Gators this coming weekend, but that'll be their last OV weekend of the summer. And yeah, that's one that, I mean, again, I just mentioned the tight ends. Caden Prothro is on campus next weekend, or supposed to be on campus next weekend. So I would look at him as I don't want to say potential, but I do think that he's someone that they're prioritizing in this recruitment right now.
Prothro's great kid, know him very well. I went up to the Rivals camp in Atlanta. He was just dominant. He doesn't say much about recruiting. He's a very quiet kid, so we won't know until he opens his mouth. I was told that his mother has no idea where he's going, literally. I'm like, okay, that's about as quiet as it gets. So Auburn, Florida, and Georgia were the schools I heard the most, but we'll see where that one goes. But he's an NFL first-round draft pick, period. So great kid. Anything else to add? Like, is there anybody it sounds like they're doing pretty well, but is there anybody that Florida, maybe you thought they would have committed by now? Carson Baker, we talked about, the running back out of Langston Hughes. He can fly. Is there anybody else you're surprised it hasn't popped yet, or is this pretty much par for the course?
Yeah, I wouldn't say surprised that they haven't popped yet. There are some players that, Florida's pursuing, and I know factually there are quite a few kids that have Florida first, but Florida doesn't have them first yet. I do think that this final OV weekend will maybe help them sort some things out. Like both the tight ends that were on campus this weekend. If Caden Prothro comes to the OV next weekend, he's like, yeah, you know what? Not feeling Florida as a place I'm actually going to commit to. Maybe they just tell one of those others to pop. But I'm also interested to see what happens with certain linebacker that's coming on campus that is currently committed to Ole Miss for the fifth commitment that was going to be on campus. We'll see. We'll see if we can make it 6 if we start needing 2 hands for that one. But Florida, they're going Valdon Sone, the defensive lineman. I think he's one that we're going to have on commit watch for this weekend. Again, I think there are a lot of kids that Florida is leading for. And again, it's June. Even if you're not leading for them, plenty of time for things to change. But Florida could have another big weekend next weekend with this recruiting visits, these visits set up. And Will Griffin's going to be on campus next weekend. So having QB1 in the class there, definitely going to help.
I would agree. I would expect they get 2 or 3 kids from next weekend, like most schools do within the week or so. But for the record, and this is not a Florida thing, but across the board, a lot of the kids are going to wait to the very end of June to early July for whatever reason to take their time and do these announcements, and then drive me crazy because literally about 200 some kids will commit in within a week time. And I'm not exaggerating. It's not going to be very fun for me. So it is what it is. I won't sleep for about 7 days, but Florida will be right in the mix. I imagine they'll be at 12, 13 commits anyway by the end of June, early July. It could be more, just depending on where a couple of kids go. It could be more. I mean, I just know how kids are in today's world, man. I never want to give them too much credit. That's all I'm saying.
No,
Brandon's being optimistic today. Brandon being optimistic, write it down because he's like me. He's always kind of glass half empty. But right now he's very bullish on the Gators. I'll give him some credit. He doesn't always do that, but
never. But I'm trying to buy in here. I'm hearing good things.
Okay, Brandon, tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
Every single day, Locked On Gators, wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And if you like misery, go to New York Giants on SI and read about the New York Giants football team.
Don't do that. That's really hard on you.
I don't recommend it.
It is what it is. You can find the Portal Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts. We will see you again soon here on the Portal Podcast. It's been the Locked On Portal Podcast and Locked On Gators crossover.